Wealth, yoga, wine. Welcome to my podcast. I'm Valerie Hale. Time machine. Have you ever experienced a time machine? Mary Morrissey has invented in her flagship program, DREAMBUILDERS, a method for us to bring our future to us every day, actually. It's called the time machine. The idea of this time machine is to bring your future to you now in everyday life. You play act when you're using the time machine that the 4 quadrants of what she teaches us in Dream Builder, the 4 quadrants of our life, the life that we would absolutely love and deserve, health and fitness, love and relationships, vocation, time and money freedom. All of these she teaches us how to achieve within 3 years or sooner. The reality of this, of course, is for some of those quadrants, it can take longer. The fun part of doing the time machine, you literally take 3 steps clockwise to bring you into the future of 3 years. You will say out loud, now you can do this with your children. You can do this in a corporate environment when you have significant goals. You can do this with your partner. When you come around those 3 steps and you're in the future of 3 years now, so we'll say it's 2025, you're going to say out loud what you have achieved about your health, about your relationships, about your vocation, about time and money freedom. You're going to speak it as though you're living in it. Now, this is not easy to do. When I first started working with Mary Morrissey 4 or 5 years ago, bringing the future to me was extremely confusing and it felt awkward. Price Pritchett also teaches this, how to act today as though you were already that person, or you already have the dream house, you already have the perfect career. They teach us to do this because it is manifestation. I know manifestation is very woo-woo for some of you, but it works. It creates our destiny. We make our future happen every day. We get closer and closer to it. The time machine is fun. Again, you're going to turn 3 times clockwise. You're going to wind up in your future now. You're going to talk about all of those 4 quadrants, and you're going to realize the reality of the life that you have always wanted and deserved and dreamed about. With Dream Builder Live, when I'm going to do the link to it, this is actually going to be the last Dream Builder program we did, it will teach you how to do the time machine. It's fun to do. As I said, your kids can do it. You can do this on a corporate level also. As we all say, have fun with it. Talking about manifestation, when I did yoga, Kundalini yoga, last week during the first new moon, with my teacher, Howard Prakash, virtually, my Siamese cat of 18 years had to be euthanized. It was a devastating time for me. The entire week was lost. Interestingly, nobody but myself came to her virtual class. It gave us a time to talk and really relate to each other on a deeper level. I have been studying with Howard Prakash in New York, where I lived before I moved to Florida, for at least 6 years. Once the pandemic hit and I moved to Florida, she was doing virtual classes every day because she knew that our minds were messed up. The beauty of this class was she shared with me, my Siamese love to do, I'm going to start crying. My Siamese loved to do yoga with me every morning. He would literally get on the mat with me. When we did virtual classes with Howard Prakash, I didn't know this, she told me this during the class. because we have our eyes closed during class 90% of the time, so we don't really know what's going on. That's the way they teach Kundalini Yoga. She told me that Chocolat would get in front of the camera on my laptop and stare at her the entire class. Such a heartwarming story. We also talked about the aspect of manifestation, because the previous new moon, we did an intense chant for manifesting something that you really wanted to come true. My 40 acres and 3 houses in New York is on the market to be sold. The person who lived in one of my rentals has prevented it for 3 years to be sold because he wouldn't allow people inside my carriage house. The eviction I won, and he actually moved out the day of Chocolat's demise. Here I am crying over my cat. I am crying also in glee because my nemesis is finally moving. Prakash told me it's also the year of the tiger. That was a momentous new moon for me. This is what manifestation is about, because I saw during our chanting of the previous new moon, I saw a U-Haul coming to the carriage house, and my nemesis was loading it up to move. I kept seeing this through the 20-minute manifestation. All my friends, I told my friends this, and they're sending me funny U-Haul cartoons. I wake up the next morning, there's a U-Haul truck outside my door. My neighbors were bringing furniture down from their house sale. I cut out the picture of the U-Haul. I cut out a picture of my nemesis. I put it behind the U-Haul. I won the eviction. The guy moved 2 weeks before he was supposed to. This is manifestation. I want you to embrace this. And the way you embrace it is 1, the time machine, 2, Kundalini Yoga. I don't care if you think this is woo-woo. This is real life happening. With wine, one of the most significant events in the world was apartheid. As this is Black History Month, I wanted to talk about a significant vineyard that is in South Africa, the Robertson vineyards. It's the Robertson area. Peter DeWet does a really interesting podcast that is coordinated through Wine-Maryellen Phillips, who is the Senior Vice President with Cape Classics. I'm going to have his link in the podcast details because the beginning of the story is quite interesting. But what I want to focus on is the fact that DeWitt, when he took over, he saw that his 275 employees wanted to live and work full-time on his property. The property began back in 1859 as an agricultural property. They had beautiful limestone soil, which has a lot of calcium in it. The DeWitt property, the Robertson property, went from ostriches to thoroughbred horses, and now it's their vineyards that are really making the name for them, probably for, 20 or 30 years, probably more now. What the DeWitt family has done is they have created a joint venture with their employees who wish to do this, work year-long and stay on the property in citrus and other type of fruit growing because the soil is so productive for these fruits. He also built a school for the children so they can also learn while the family is working the farm. Peter and his family realized that apartheid had such a horrendous impact on people that even psychologically they couldn't get past the fact that they really had no future. This is significant that a family has taken a huge step, a huge investment, and a huge risk to have a joint venture with their own employees. Peter tells us that A lot of years it's very successful, a lot of years not so. But it makes so much more sense in these people's lives that they can have their own joint venture in addition to working the land on the Robertson property. Getting back to wine, the Excelsior label came from the fact of their thoroughbreds. Peter points out that the soil, which is filled with calcium, is also a desert-like environment he shares with us. This rich soil is what produces really beautiful wines. He tells us, and I know this because I used to sell the wines, that the Excelsior Cab is the number one selling wine at this point level. It's like $10.99 because of inflation. It used to be $8.99. Peter shares with us that this is the most sold product of theirs, of all their labels. Chardonnay the next, and Sauvignon Blanc. This is a producer who is improving the world. It's a producer that I strongly suggest you follow and purchase their wines. They're also sustainable in an unusual practice that they make sure that their waste from the wines is recycled in some capacity. They don't use copper, even though many vintners will. They don't use copper because it's actually bad for the environment. Because it's so dry, they really never have to use pesticides to intervene with an invasion of pests. I strongly suggest you support the Excelsior. Listen to the podcast that Wine-Maryellen Phillips has created with Peter. Really insightful. To know also that a country has overcome apartheid, and many businesses are working with the families who have been so affected by apartheid over the many decades that it was in existence. In conclusion, you definitely want to have fun with the time machine. Click onto the Dream Builders link. Fun for everyone you know. Bring your future to you, and this is one of the ways to practice it. You always want to say out loud the life you deserve. You want to envision it. When you write the vision of your life, when you speak the vision of your life, you are manifesting it to the universe in a very significant, impactful way. I don't care if you think this is woo-woo. It works. Kundalini Yoga has saved me in so many ways, and this is a big shout out to Har Prakash with helping me grieving over my Siamese. Sorry. Lastly, of course, Excelsior. This is a vintner you really want to support. Educating. They built schools also for their children that are on the vineyards on his property. Really go out of your way to buy Excelsior's products. Give me an email shout, and I can tell you where you can get them, quite honestly, at any fine wine store just about. In conclusion, I'm not a life coach. I'm not a consultant. I create this podcast every day to improve people's lives. You can certainly contribute on Zelle, on Patreon, on PayPal. It's always listed on my podcast details if you'd like to contribute to an artist. Merci.